Hey, General Hospital fans. Okay, so right now we are in the middle of absolute chaos on the canvas, and I am here for every single second of it. Brook Lynn Quartermaine has completely lost the plot, and I mean that in the most literal way possible, because this scheme she is cooking up with Lucy Coe to pin the Jordan Ashford hit-and run on Willow-Kane is about to blow up so spectacularly in her face that I genuinely don't know if her marriage to Harrison Chase is going to survive what's coming. This is Belinda from Soap Dirt and Honey, buckle up because we have got a lot to unpack today. So let's start from the very beginning for anyone who maybe missed a few episodes, because context is everything here. Jordan Ashford was involved in a pretty serious crash, and for a while, the show was doing this really clever thing where they kept the identity of the other driver deliberately murky. And I actually appreciated that because there were multiple people on the road that night. Isaiah Gainen was out there. Danny Morgan was driving Charlotte Cassadine's car, which ended up wrecked, so there was genuine reasonable doubt floating around for a hot minute. The show did a decent job of making you wonder. And then Isaiah goes and tells Lucas Jones that he scraped his SUV in the parking garage and needed the paint touched up, and suddenly everyone's side-eyeing him. Like, did he make that up as a cover story so he could get his car fixed without raising red flags? It's not impossible. And then when DA Justine Turner, who, let's not forget, is Jordan's best friend, which is a whole other conversation about conflict of interest. When Justine tried to get a paint sample from Isaiah's car, and he flat out refused, Curtis Ashford took that as basically a confession. Now look, I want to say something here that I think is important. Not letting law enforcement search your vehicle, your home, your belongings without a warrant is not inherently suspicious. That is just knowing your rights. I don't care who you are or what you did or didn't do. You don't have to consent to a warrantless search, and exercising that right doesn't make you guilty of anything. But of course, on soaps, refusing a search always looks like guilt. It's a soap opera law of physics at this point. Curtis read it as guilt, the show framed it as guilt, so the audience reads it as guilt. Fine. But I just want to say legally, Isaiah was doing the smart thing. Anyway, back to Brook Lynn, so here's what we know. Brook Lynn was out drinking with Lucy Coe that night. Just one glass, she says, but still, she was drinking and she got behind the wheel and she ended up in that same situation on the road where Jordan veered into her lane. And the truth of it, the actual, factual truth, is that Jordan and Curtis were responsible for that crash. Jordan came into Brook Lynn's lane. Brook Lynn didn't cause the accident. She was the victim in this scenario. And I genuinely believe that in the immediate aftermath, Brook Lynn didn't fully process what had happened. She didn't knowingly flee the scene. She was scared and in shock, and Tracy, of course it was Tracy. Tracy told her to keep her mouth shut, and Brook Lynn unfortunately listened. And that's where the real moral failing starts, not in the accident itself, but in the silence afterward. Because if Brook Lynn had gone to the PCPD that same night, or even the next morning and said, "Hey, I was on the road, Jordan came into my lane, here's what happened," she almost certainly would have faced zero legal consequences. She wasn't drunk. One drink is not DUI territory. Jordan veered into her lane. Brook Lynn didn't hit anyone intentionally, and she didn't drive away cackling. She panicked, and she had the world's worst grandmother whispering in her ear telling her to stay quiet. That's a bad decision, but it's not a criminal one. Not yet. But now? Now we are in a completely different territory because Brook Lynn isn't just staying quiet anymore. She has moved from keeping a secret to protect herself into actively framing an innocent person for something she knows she did. And that is a massive, massive line to cross. Even I, who genuinely cannot stand Willow-Kane and will happily say so, even I have to acknowledge that you do not frame someone for a crime they didn't commit. Willow should absolutely be in prison for shooting Drew Kane, for keeping him drugged and captive, for everything she tried to do to Jack Brennan. Willow is a legitimate villain, and she deserves real legal consequences for the real terrible things she has done. But she does not deserve to be the fall girl for Brook Lynn's hit and run. That's not justice. That's just Brook Lynn being desperate and vindictive and, honestly, exactly like her grandmother Tracy. And speaking of Tracy, can we talk about how this whole scheme Brook Lynn is running is basically a carbon copy of something Tracy pulled off about 6 years ago? Like, almost beat for beat. Because you might remember, Alexis Davis was going through a really rough period with her drinking, and she and Ned had this drunken one-night stand after Ned got it in his head that Olivia had been involved with Robert Scorpio. So Tracy, being Tracy, decided she needed to protect Ned's marriage to Olivia from the fallout of that confession. Alexis was going to come clean to Olivia, and Tracy could not let that happen. So, what did Tracy do? She found Alexis at the Metro Court bar, offered her a ride home like she was being a good Samaritan, and then when Alexis passed out drunk in the car, Tracy physically moved her into the driver's seat. And then she told Detective Chase, the very same Harrison Chase who is now married to Tracy's granddaughter, by the way, which is a fun little layer. Tracy told him that she'd brought Alexis home and was trying to get her sober, but then Alexis took off driving drunk. So Alexis got arrested. The charges eventually got dropped when the truth surfaced. Tracy had to go on the run for a while to dodge the fallout, and the whole thing was a spectacular mess that blew up in Tracy's face. And now here is Brook Lynn, Tracy's granddaughter, doing essentially the same thing. Using a real incident, a real night, a real accident, and manipulating the narrative to make someone else look guilty. If Brook Lynn sat down and told Tracy exactly what she was planning, I genuinely believe Tracy would not only approve, she'd probably offer to help. Tracy would see this as a masterclass in Quartermaine survival tactics. But here's the thing Tracy probably forgot to pass down along with the scheming gene. It didn't work for Tracy either. The truth came out. The truth always comes out in Port Charles. Always. Now let's talk about Chase, because this is where things get really emotionally complicated and honestly kind of heartbreaking if you're a BLQ and Chase fan. And I know a lot of you are. Chase is so genuinely good. Like, annoyingly, almost unrealistically good, but in a way that makes you root for him. He's always been a law and order guy, a by-the-book cop who takes his integrity seriously. And think about his history. Even when he and Sasha staged that fake cheating situation back in the day to push Michael and Willow together for Wiley's custody case, Chase didn't actually sleep with Sasha. He participated in the illusion of an affair to help his friend, but even then, he wouldn't actually cross that line. That tells you everything about who Chase is as a person. He bends sometimes, but there are lines he won't cross. And right now, Chase is genuinely, deeply grateful to Willow. Because Willow showed up to the Quartermaine mansion, ironically, to do Brook Lynn and Chase a favor of all things. She was there helping them get approved as foster parents for baby Phoebe. Willow, who Chase has no idea is a villain, because he hasn't seen that side of her, went out of her way to help them. And that act of kindness has made Chase feel like Willow is someone good, someone trustworthy. He is completely blind to who she actually is because all he's seen from her is helpfulness and warmth. So in Chase's head, Willow is a good person and Brook Lynn is. Well, right now Brook Lynn is his wife who he loves, but if he finds out what she's done, that image is going to shatter completely. Because here's what Chase is going to find out eventually. He's going to find out that Brook Lynn was the other driver in Jordan's crash. He's going to find out that Brook Lynn kept that secret. He's going to find out that Brook Lynn then tried to frame Willow for the very thing Brook Lynn did. And he's going to find out that Brook Lynn did all of this out of jealousy. Jealousy over the idea that Chase might have feelings for Willow, feelings that Chase himself has never confirmed or acted on, feelings that Chase would probably be offended to have even suggested to him. Because we already know Tracy accused Chase of being unfaithful, and he was genuinely, legitimately angry about that. He does not take that kind of accusation lightly. He doesn't cheat. That's not who he is. So Brook Lynn's entire scheme is built on a jealous suspicion that Chase would probably be furious to know was the motivation. And when all of that comes out, and it always does, Chase is not going to be able to look past it. I don't see how he does. This isn't like Brook Lynn made a mistake or said something hurtful in a fight. This is a sustained, deliberate campaign to ruin another person's reputation and possibly their freedom, motivated by paranoid jealousy over a man who wasn't even giving Brook Lynn a reason to be jealous. That's not a "we need couples therapy" situation. That's a "I don't know who you are" situation. And what about baby Phoebe? Because that's the other piece of this that makes my stomach hurt a little. If this goes to any kind of custody dispute, you've got Chase, a decorated police detective with an unblemished record and a reputation for integrity, on one side, and Brook Lynn, a woman who covered up a hidden run and then tried to frame a sitting congresswoman for it, on the other. That is not a close call. That is not a custody battle Chase loses. And losing baby Phoebe on top of the marriage imploding would be absolutely devastating for Brook Lynn, and honestly, part of me wonders if the show is building toward exactly that kind of rock-bottom moment for her. Now, the high-profile arrest that's coming this Friday. So we've been going back and forth on who Chase is going to be putting in handcuffs, and I know there was a lot of speculation that it could be Willow or Sidwell. But Sidwell is off the board for now because Dante arrested him and then he managed to get away. So he's on the run, and he's not getting caught again that quickly. That would feel too rushed. My gut says it's probably not Willow either, because Lucy and Brook Lynn specifically talked about how they don't actually have hard evidence against Willow. They're working on leaking allegations to damage her reputation, which is a different play than building a criminal case. So the arrest is probably not Willow. My best guess? I'm going with Cullum. That arrest being described as high-profile makes me think it's someone with status, someone whose arrest would mean something. A congresswoman certainly qualifies, but so does whoever Cullum is in this story's power structure. We'll see by the end of the week. But here's what I keep coming back to, the thing that this whole storyline is really about underneath all the plot mechanics and scheme logistics. Brook Lynn is a Quartermaine. She grew up watching Tracy operate. She absorbed, whether she wanted to or not, a certain philosophy about how you protect what's yours. You scheme, you manipulate, you do whatever it takes, and you don't apologize for it. And for a long time, Brook Lynn resisted that. She was the Quartermaine who wanted to be different, who wanted to be genuine and good. But desperation has a way of unlocking the DNA, doesn't it? And right now, Brook Lynn is operating in full Tracy mode. She's not even trying to hide it from herself. She knows what she's doing is wrong. She said so. But she's doing it anyway, because the fear of losing Chase is bigger in this moment than her sense of right and wrong. The tragedy of it is that if Brook Lynn had just been honest about the crash, about her fears, about her insecurity regarding Willow, Chase probably would have reassured her. Probably would have been her rock through the whole thing. Instead, she chose Tracy's playbook. And Tracy's playbook, as we have seen time and time and time again, always burns the person using it before it's done. Brook Lynn Quartermaine is about to find out the hard way that you can be born into a legacy of scheming and survival and manipulation. But that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. The Quartermaine way tends to produce spectacular, public, messy implosions. And this one is going to be no different. We are so close to all of this coming to a head, and I cannot wait to break it down with you every step of the way. If you are not subscribed yet, please hit that button right now because you do not want to miss a single episode as this blows up. Soap Dirt is everywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of it. Drop your predictions in the comments. I want to know, do you think Chase forgives Brook Lynn, or is this marriage done? Let me know. I'll see you in the next one. That clocks in well over 6,000 characters and matches the original's conversational tone, fan opinion energy, detailed plot recapping, moral commentary, and that signature, I'm talking directly to you, fellow fan vibe. Want me to adjust the character names, tweak the opinions, or punch up any specific section?